Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
That call out for stage 2 LOX load complete, that means that the vehicle is fully fueled on both stages and ready for liftoff just 90 seconds from now. We're starting to see some clouds form around Falcon 9 and hearing some hissing. That is normal and expected for us at this stage in the countdown. So things continuing to look good for an on-time liftoff.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
The vehicle is in startup, which means that both stages are beginning to pressurize for liftoff.
LD is go for 2 and 24.
The launch director has given the final go. All systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with KPLO.
T-minus 30 seconds, stand by for terminal count. Fifteen, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Vehicles PG downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying the KPLO payload to a ballistic lunar transfer orbit. So we are beginning to throttle down the engines on the first stage to prepare for a period known as max Q. During this period, the vehicle is going to experience the highest amount of aerodynamic stresses
Vehicle supersonic. Max Q.
And there was max Q. So the engines are coming back up to full power. We have 3 events coming up in quick succession in about a minute. First up is MECO, that stands for main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then SES1, which stands for second engine start 1. Main engine cutoff is where the first and second stages, main engine cutoff is where the 9 engines on the first stage will shut off in preparation for stage separation. That is where the first and second stages will separate from one another. The first stage will make its way back to our drone ship to attempt its 6th landing, and the second stage will continue with SES1, which is where the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will start up and continue to propel our KPLO satellite to its desired orbit. Those events are coming up in about 10 seconds. For now, we are enjoying some excellent views of Falcon 9 during its ascent phase.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
We saw the confirmation of stage separation and the ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. Coming up in a few seconds, we're going to be looking for fairing deploy. Those fairing halves will separate from the top of the second stage and make their way back to Earth.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And off they come. So those two fairing halves are now falling back to Earth. Those are the fourth flight for both of these fairing halves, and we are going to be attempting to retrieve them with the help of our recovery vessel, Bob. So we're coming up on T plus
Bermuda.
4 minutes into the mission. We have a couple of views on screen. On the left-hand side is a view of that first stage, continuing to make its way back to Earth. And on the right-hand side is a view of the Merlin vacuum engine. On the opposite side of that engine is the second stage and the KPLO payload. So things continuing to go smoothly after liftoff. The next major milestone for the first stage occurs around the T plus 6 minute and 50 second mark. It's going to be the first of two burns.
On nominal trajectory.
The first burn is going to be called the entry burn. This is where we will relight the center engine, engine number 9, followed by engines number 1 and 5. That way we'll have 3 M1D engines helping to slow down the first stage as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. The engine that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is optimized to perform in the vacuum of space. It can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust, as opposed to the engines on the first stage, which are optimized to perform at sea level. Those can produce 190,000 pounds of thrust apiece. This view that you see on the left-hand side of the screen, that's actually inside the inner stage looking up. We mentioned those pusher rods, and that we saw a glimpse of those with that video. You can also see some action on the left-hand side of the screen. We see some bursts of white gas. That is nitrogen from our attitude control system. That in conjunction with those hypersonic griffins that you see on screen. We see 2 of them. There's actually 4 at the top of the first stage. Those help to guide and steer and orient the first stage back to its targeted landing zone. Today it's going to be the drone ship Just Read the Instruction. So we are about 40 seconds away, or 30 seconds away from that entry burn on the first stage. Second stage continues to perform nominally.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And those engines have indeed relit. The first stage is currently slowing down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. This burn is expected to last for about 30 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Awesome. So that burn is in the books. We have 1 more to go on the first stage. That's a landing burn that's going to happen.
Startup terminal guidance.
In about a minute. We are going to be listening here in about 20 seconds for a call out called SECO. That stands for Second Engine Cutoff 1. The engine that you see on screen will shut off its engine. And then shortly after that, we'll listen for a call out for a nominal orbital insertion. That means that the second stage is entering its coast phase and is exactly where we want it to be before it relights its engine a little bit later on in the mission.
MVAC shut down.
So we did see that the MVAC
Stage 1 transonic.
shut down.
nominal orbit insertion.
And there was the call out for nominal orbital insertion. The second stage is coasting for a bit longer, and we got views back of our first stage as it attempts its sixth landing on our drone ship.
Landing burn.
You can start to see the drone ship.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Sometimes the video cuts out. We'll wait for confirmation of whether or not the first stage was able to land. But for now, we know that the second stage is in its coasting orbit. And there is that second stage with the Merlin vacuum engine off. And that's a view of the KPLO payload.
Expected loss of signal. Keep.
So we haven't heard confirmation of the first stage, whether it was able to land for the sixth time, but the second stage is now embarking on its coast phase between the first and second burns of the MVAC engine. After the coast phase, we'll light that MVAC engine for a second time, a bit after the T plus 34-minute mark.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And before we head off, we did get confirmation of the first stage landing. That is the 127th successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage and the 110th mission flying a rephone booster, which includes both Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 missions. So we'll see you back here in about 20 minutes. In the meantime, enjoy the space tunes. Welcome back to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying the KPLO payload designed and developed by KARI, or Korea Aerospace Research Institute. We're coming up on the second burn of the upper stage engine in about 30 seconds. And to recap what's happened so far in the mission, we had a smooth liftoff at 7:08 p.m. Eastern Time out of Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida. The first stage, which made its sixth flight today, successfully landed on our drone ship Just Read the Instructions. So again, we are waiting for our second stage engine to reignite, and then after that, we will shut it back down for another short coast phase before deploying our KPLO payload. It doesn't look like we are going to be getting video views of the second stage, so we'll be waiting for the call out of SES-2.
nominal orbit insertion.
So we were waiting for SCS-2 and SECO-2, but we got an even better call out, which is nominal orbital insertion. So the second stage engine started up, burned for about a minute, and then shut back down. Again, we are in another coast phase, and while we wait for the payload to get closer to its final destination, we're going to pause commentary during the second coast phase, but we will come back just before payload deploy, currently scheduled to occur around the T plus 40-minute mark. So until then, enjoy the space tunes once again, and we'll see you back here in about 4 minutes. Welcome back to our launch coverage of the KPLO mission. If you are just joining us, we have just one more major milestone coming up to complete today's mission, which of course is the deployment of the KPLO payload from Falcon 9's second stage, which is scheduled to take place about 30 seconds from now. And there we can see the KPLO payload at the top of the second stage.
KPLO, deploy confirmed.
And there you have it. Confirmation of successful separation of KPLO from Falcon 9's second stage. KPLO still has a bit of work to do over the next 4.5 months before getting into a lunar orbit, but we do wish it safe travels. For us here at SpaceX, that is going to wrap up our webcast coverage. We want to thank the Korea Aerospace Research Institute for entrusting us with today's mission. And of course, all of our viewers, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.